Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys, girls, children of all ages. Welcome back, Team Sons, to another video. And this video is inspired by my mom. She has done a pretty good job trying to understand hockey, but she doesn't quite understand the whole playoffs thing. So this is kind of inspired by her. But it's for anybody that ever was trying to wonder how the whole playoff thing works. And so we're gonna dive right into it. And so the playoff format is a little bit tricky to understand because first of all, it has 4 rounds. All right. Of the 4 rounds, well, to give you a little indication on how long that is, it goes for about 2 months, and it is one of the most difficult championships to win because uh, all 4 rounds are best out of 7. So first team to win 4 games, and no other sport has that. Basketball, I think, has 4 rounds, but one of those rounds is five, best out of 5, maybe even best out of 3. I'm not sure. And football obviously has 1 game, and so one and done. And baseball is, I think, 3 rounds. I think. I'm not sure. I haven't watched baseball in a while, so Daryl, if you're watching, please let me know. Um, yeah, so the Stanley Cup is one of the most difficult uh, championships to win. So to try to explain it to you, I have kind of made this little bracket thing. All right, and it is to help uh, give a visual, I guess, on what I'm trying to say. And well, let's take a better look at it. At the top, you'll see first place and eighth place. Now, to get into the playoffs, you have to be one of the top 8 teams in your conference, and the first place team of each division, because there's 2 divisions per conference. Are you with me so far? So there's 2 conferences, 4 divisions, and each division winner gets either the first spot or the second spot of the bracket. All right, and so if you're the first place team right here, you go against the worst team that made the playoffs. So not the worst team in the NHL, the worst team in the playoffs that made the playoffs. Um, so, for example, this year the Ottawa Senators were the worst team in the NHL. They didn't make the playoffs. Detroit, right? Actually, sorry, Detroit was worse than Ottawa. Detroit didn't make the playoffs, and Buffalo, New Jersey, all these other teams, they didn't make the playoffs. So I'm not quite sure who ended up in eighth place, but anyways, I think it was ended up being. I think Boston had the best regular season, which means that they in a regular season they would have had the first place. But because this year was all mishmash with the whole COVID, they had it differently. But let's just say that COVID never happened. Boston would have had the first place position, and they would have gone against the eighth place position, and I think that would have been New York Islanders. I'm not quite sure because I know New York slid near the end before the whole COVID started. So I think it was the New York Islanders, but let's just pretend it was. All right. So the first place goes against the worst place that made the playoffs. And usually to get into the playoffs, you have to have like 94, 95, 96 points to get in. So even though the eighth place team, I don't, everybody sucked, they still did pretty good. So, and the New York Islanders, even though they did slide near the end, and maybe even slid out of a playoff spot, they made it because they had a good start of the season or middle season or whatever it was. Um, So yes, the place goes against the 8th place. And then you go to the bottom of the bracket, which is way down here. And you'll see the 2nd place and 7th place right there. All right, 2nd and 7th. And why is 2nd down here instead of up here? Because theoretically, you want your 1st place team against your 2nd place team at the end of the playoffs. So for the conference finals, it would be the 3rd round. You want your 1st place against your 2nd place theoretically. All right, this is just all theory. And then in the middle, two brackets, you got your 4th against your 5th, and your 3rd against your 6th. So you're always putting your top one against the bottom, and then so 1st against 8th, 2nd against 7th, 3rd against 6th, and 4th against 5th. All right, I don't know if you follow with that, but that's the visual. All right, for any of you that are visual learners. And so typically speaking, if you're to do this, these two lines would be connected, and then the winner of this bracket would be placed here, and the winner of this bracket would be placed here, and those two brackets would play against each other. That would be the easy way of doing things, but hockey isn't easy. All right, so let's just say the New York Islanders. So I'm gonna put actually New York Islanders here instead of 8th place team. So NYI and Boston. So let's just say theoretically, New York Islanders beat the 1st place Boston Bruins. So the New York Islanders would go now here, and they would actually go against, and say the 2nd place team moved on, they beat the 7th place. So instead of New York Islanders playing the winner of the 4th and 5th place team, the New York Islanders would now have to play the 2nd place team. So the 2nd place, so it'd be kind of like this. So since the New York Islanders are the 8th place team, which is the worst team that made the playoffs, they're always going to go against the best team that is left in the playoffs. So let's say 7th place actually made it through. 7th place. All right. And the 3rd place made it past the 6th place. So the New York Islanders would then be against the 3rd place team. And if the 3rd place team lost, then they go against the winner to the 4th and 5th team. And those would be the only options. All right. So yeah, that's pretty much how it works, and that's one division or one conference. So that would be the Eastern Conference. They'd have the exact same thing on the other side, which I never did, for the Western Conference. And right now, the playoffs are in the 3rd round. I believe. Oh yes, Dallas won last night against the Vegas Golden Knights, 1-0. It was the first shot of the game, went in against the Vegas Knights, and no other goals were scored after. So tonight is the New York Islanders versus the Tampa Bay Lightning. And my last video, I wasn't sure if they were traveling out west to play their conference finals in Edmonton, and it is confirmed that they are doing that. I had a feeling that was going to happen, but I wasn't certain in my last video, but now I know. So yes, we are in the 3rd round. It's the New York Islanders versus Tampa Bay Lightning from the Eastern Conference, and the Vegas Golden Knights versus the Dallas Stars in the Western. And the two winners of that will play for the Stanley Cup. And my prediction is, even though the Vegas Golden Knights lost last night, I still think they're going to win and beat Dallas. And so Vegas in the West. New York Islanders are showing signs of actual brilliancy. They have the best coach in the NHL, in my opinion, in Trotz, I think is his name, and he's just he's got them playing such a system that everybody's bought into, and it's working for them. Like I said, going into the playoffs before COVID, New York Islanders were sliding. They lost, I think, 4 in a row or something like that. It was going really bad, and some people even thought they wouldn't make the playoffs. And now they're in the conference finals. So if they win against Tampa Bay, they are the Eastern Conference champions, which is the old Whales. So they get the Whales trophy. And I don't know why um, teams never touched the Whales Conference championship or the Campbell championship, but it apparently is a hex to whoever touches those trophies that will never win the Stanley Cup. It's silly. I think you should lift it up at least, or have a team photo around it, or something. Like it seems ridiculous to me. Anyways, uh, so then in my predictions, New York Islanders against the Vegas Golden Knights, they would play for the Stanley Cup, and the winner of that wins the Stanley Cup. I hope that explains a little bit. I know it's a little bit confusing without the actual visual um, thing. So just note that always the first place team, or the best place in the first round that moves on, will play the worst team that moved on, if that makes sense. So in this bracket theory, if say Boston did end up beating New York, they would have been against the winner of either the 7th place versus the 2nd place. They wouldn't have played the 2nd, the 6th, or the 5th. Those would be the 3 options. So this the 7th, 6th, or 5th. After that would be the 4th. So theoretically speaking, Boston, or the first place team, would play the 4th place team if all the playoff brackets, the higher seeded team moved on, and then the 2nd place would play the 3rd place, and that's basically how it goes. So every round, it's a shuffle. It's a shuffle. There's no set bracket like this. It's a shuffle. It's always the best team that's left against the worst team, and the 2 middle teams would play it out too. So that's how it goes, and best way I could put it, I think. I hope that makes it a little bit more understanding. Now, how do you get in the playoffs? You might be asking, how do you get in the playoffs? How do they figure out who's in 1st and who's in 8th? Well, that's what the 82 games regular season's for, to figure out who is the best, and who is the 8th best, and who is the 4th best, and who is the 7th best. All right, and who doesn't make the playoffs. And I think it was Detroit. They won like 27 seasons in a row to make the playoffs. I mean, sometimes they were in 1st, sometimes they were in 8th, sometimes they were in whatever place they were in. But to make it 26 years in a row, that is unbelievable. That was back when Steve Yzerman was playing, and then Nicholas Lidstrom and whoever their captain is now. I don't know who it is now. And that's pretty insane. I mean, Ottawa had a good run in the late 90s, early 2000s. I think they went 10 seasons in a row, and I think the first season that they did not make the playoffs was a 2009-2010 season, I think. But I think the 2008 season, they got swept. And the 2007 season, they actually made it to the Stanley Cup. And the following season, they started off 15-3, I think, or something like crazy like that. 15 wins, 3 losses in the first 18 games. And they just made the playoffs and then got swept by Pittsburgh Penguins. So, that's how I feel about the Penguins. So any Penguins fans, I'm sorry, I'm a Sens fan. All right. I think Pittsburgh has beaten Ottawa in the playoffs 5 times and Ottawa's won once, or is it 4-1? I don't know. It's right up there with Ottawa losing to Toronto, but that's all ancient history. I don't. Anybody that makes prediction that Toronto will beat Ottawa next time they play in the playoffs, whenever that is, that Toronto will win, and they're gonna bring up like the 2000 season, the 2001, 2003, 2004, 2005, whatever it was, and they're gonna bring those seasons up, but they have no bearing. There is not one player on either teams that is left, not one. So those people that make those predictions of Toronto beating Ottawa because of the past, it really doesn't mean anything. The last time the Ottawa and Toronto played each other in the playoffs was 2004. So, that was 16 years ago, 16 seasons ago. I think maybe it was 15 because there was a lockout one year. Anyways, so yeah, that has no bearing on me anymore. If they had played like in 2006 or 7 or something like that, I would have been like, yeah, Toronto's probably going to win too. But now it's 2020 or 2020, whatever way you say it, and there is not one player. The only person that is left is Eugene Melnyk. That's it. Unfortunately. If you want to know how I feel about Eugene Melnyk, check my Facebook page. It has a lot of stuff on him. How I feel. But I still cheer for them. And wear their clothes and whatever. So, and hopefully Eugene Melnyk